Hello, my name is Matthias Schmidt. I'd like to welcome you to this presentation, which is dealing with the major point on wine aroma and its evolution during the shelf life of the wine. Furthermore, we are going to talk about wine ratings and what points to consider when rating wine. And finally, we are going to talk also about what parameters could influence wine prices. So first of all, here that quick overview about the different chapters we're going to see. Wine aroma evolution, rating wine, and factors affecting wine prices. So starting with wine aroma and its evolution. So different scientific studies show that we have, in terms of wine, way more than 1,000 different volatile components that affect wine aroma, and they all undergo certain important changes during aging, during bottle aging. Some of them are profoundly influenced by the degree of exposure to oxygen. So for some wines, this is a bit more desired than for others. So in general, red wines actually seek a bit more oxidation, also doing vinification, whereas some should be kept a bit more reductive, so protected from oxygen influence. Furthermore, as fundamental driving factor for wine aging, there's temperature. So from chemistry, we know that the 10 degrees Celsius increase will double reaction speed. So there are two important factors going hand in hand, which is temperature, but it is also oxygen here. So it is important to highlight the primary, secondary, and tertiary aromas. They constantly evolve over time. Sometimes there's an overlap between these different classification as the wine is aging. What does that mean in detail? So while talking about aroma, we definitely have to carefully differ where those aromas are derived from when it is about the potential wine aroma. So first of all, starting with the primary aromas, also called varietal aromas or varietal flavors, they come directly from the grape variety. So they are present in the skin of the grape, being more or less intense depending on the grape variety, the terroir, including growing conditions, but also the winemaking process. The winemaker has a quite important fingerprint here, because he is then also deciding how much of that potential aroma is extracted. So the aromatic molecules are synthesized in the berries and are then expressed into the wine. A very good example for this is Gewürztraminer. So the skin is really flavor rich. If we would take such a wine, press it immediately, the later potential aroma is quite low. Whereas we take the same Gewürztraminer and let it macerate a certain time on the skins prior to pressing, we actually extract way more of that typical varietal aroma, primary aroma in that case, and we get a more expressive Gewürztraminer due to that. So furthermore, we can also distinguish between different expressions of that aroma. Is it a floral aroma? Is it a fruity aroma? Here just some examples, and I think all of you have certain aromas in mind, or you have all detected certain of such aromas in different wines. Furthermore, we can have herbal aromas, spicy aromas, and even mineral aromas in a wine directly coming from the variety. The so-called secondary aromas are aromas that come from the production process, including fermentation, the alcoholic fermentation, more correctly, and malolactic fermentation. Furthermore, there is a lees aging, and also it is somewhat open to interpretation. So to what extent is it the process? So barrel aging for sure is also to be included here, but it's also the way the barrel is produced. So it's not just the origin of the oak, it's also the processing here. So it's quite complex. While coming back to fermentation, it is also the type of yeast, the way you're fermenting it. So do you do a spontaneous fermentation? Do you take a selected yeast strain with a certain characteristic that it was selected for? Fermentation temperatures playing here an important role. You keep a bit more the very volatile fruity aromas while you're fermenting a bit more cooled, more controlled. It's then also the vessel influencing fermentation kinetics, and here the temperature also to